sadly for all of you, Dawn is away, so you get me as today's chair. I appreciate Carrie calling in to keep me in line. Any changes, corrections to the agenda? Okay. Conflicts of interest. You guys are making this so easy. Approval and adoption of last time's minutes, which was the October meeting. Any issues with the minutes, or can we get a motion to approve those?
A motion to approve.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Neil, thank you. All in favor? Perfect. No delegations today, so right into the working group updates, starting with the business park.
I guess I could deliver that update. We haven't had any meetings recently, but what's happening right now is we're in the class EA process for the business park and the extension of Dixon Drive. And not sure if it's gone out to this committee yet, but I'll send it around. We're holding the public information center that's associated with that class EA late January. And so we're hoping we've got budget money in this year's budget to do the business park, and hoping with the completion of the EA very soon we'll be able to get started, get in the ground this year.
Awesome. Any questions for Brett on that? George, you'll add anything you need to in your report, I guess, on that stuff. Okay. Economic recovery working group update.
I'm not sure if Neil wanted to say something.
Oh,
Sal.
sorry. Did I miss you, Neil?
That's okay, Sally. George, I'll wait till you do your update. My question is related to the business park, but it's about your list, you know, how big it is and how active it is.
Okay.
The economic recovery working group update is we haven't met since, I think, April. I would like to suggest maybe we start meeting again as recovery maybe has returned to the forefront. Not that it ever really went away, but we had a good run there for a little bit. Any comments, thoughts on that from the group looking to re-meet? Some nodding, Neil?
Yeah, I would suggest that would be a good idea, just to kind of kick some ideas around and maybe go over some of the things that you picked up in your event the other day.
Yeah.
Some of the things the businesses were saying, and I think economic recovery this time around, it's got to come from higher up, because loans aren't going to make it. It's got to be a grant process, but it would be good to have a discussion and things that we can do to help the local, because I think there's a lot of not animosity this time around, but it's fatigue more than anything else. And I could hear it when I talk to some of the business people that they're starting to get a little frustrated. And so we should kick the ball around, I think. So let's schedule a meeting.
Okay. I can't remember what timing were those meetings. McLean?
I just had a story. I've been absent in a few recent meetings. I was wondering, is it possible for me to join that group that we're discussing right now, the economic recovery group? Simply because personally, we own a few businesses in Elora, and I am part of the BIA, so we might have some insight or input to that discussion. I'm not sure if it's too late for that, and I go around next year, but just let me know.
I don't think so, but just someone correct me if I'm wrong here. Kim?
I think actually, McLean, you were included on there as a representative for the Elora BIA. I was sitting for the Fergus BIA. So I think when it was initially set up, you were already included. Devlin may have that in the minutes from back then, but.
I think that's correct.
Yeah.
But I'm Jack, so.
Oh, okay. Well, then I will, when a meeting is scheduled, I'll be sure to be there.
All right, so we will bring that group back together. Devlin, we'll have to check when we used to meet, I guess. Schedule some meetings. There were a few projects left over from that. The digital welcome wagon, which has moved around on the front and back burners on my desk, but it's still in the works and connecting with the realtors, and with the coupon book that's going out as part of our Shop Local program at the end of the month. We're actually going to be able to reach out to all, there's like 64 Center Wellington businesses in that, and sort of reuse some of those coupons and get them in the digital welcome wagon to beef up that website as we roll that out. So that is still in the works, and there is a little money left from the county support that we got for the Google My Business workshop. So that's maybe a starting point for those discussions. What we can maybe do with that. I did accidentally plan an event last night in my head while I was falling asleep. So maybe I'll bring that one to the table. Anyway, so we'll start working again on that, get that group back together. Any other economic recovery working group questions, Kristel?
I just want to mention that Digital Main Street 3.0 is finished, but I've heard rumors and hints of Digital 4.0. So I can well imagine, I can well imagine with the current state of affairs that they will look to because the money's coming federally as well too. So there's a big, I think it was $5 billion invested in digital transformation. So I would expect that will come in as well as a form of relief efforts.
Do you know how many businesses, sorry, Bob, participated in 3.0?
We're still tallying because the problem is people are still going through the process of completion. They oversubscribed approvals. So actually Digital Main Street has been looking for some of the grant money back to be able to give it to other people, which is interesting. So, but we're sitting around total grants that we've given out is almost 1,000 over the last 3 years. Yeah. So that's pretty impressive. So $2,500 grants for those of you not familiar with it that go out for digital upgrades. So website, social media, marketing strategies, things like that. So so stay tuned because I'm sure that will be part of that economic discussion.
Awesome. Bob, did I see a hand there?
Yeah, Sally, the only thing that I think's changed dramatically from my point of view is that as business has recovered, staffing levels and the ability to hire people is across virtually every industry, and there's just real challenges. And because this group was formed really to create jobs in Center Wellington and to keep jobs in Center Wellington, I wonder if you could add that as a topic in terms of brainstorming some ideas of how we could help our local businesses, help our local businesses attract good talent and keep them. It might be a big task, but there might be some ideas that we could bounce around on there.
Yeah, definitely something we're hearing a lot across the board. And you're right, every industry, every business, it doesn't seem to matter.
Right. Thanks.
Other questions, comments, economic recovery, workforce? Okay. Let's move along to the agriculture zoning working group update.
Want me to tackle that one, Janet, and then you could fill in, or you want to start?
Go ahead.
So we've been looking at our zoning bylaw regulations, and I'm in the middle of working on a draft, which we want to add to the housing complement that's available in the agricultural area. So Provincial Planning Act now allows us to, in our zoning bylaws, allow additional dwelling units on a farm. So we're looking at that aspect. Then we're also looking at the range of agricultural related businesses that can take place on an agriculturally zoned property. We'll have a final draft pretty soon, but we do need to schedule a meeting. So I'm hoping that before the end of this month, we can get another meeting of that subcommittee. And then next month, we should have a draft bylaw that we can report back to the full committee on. We had a little bit of, I think we need to make sure that all the subcommittee members are on the same page with what the goal is as far as as far as the housing goes and the range of uses that we want to allow. We've modeled a couple of different bylaws from some of the other municipalities in the county, and there's a little bit of divergence amongst those. So we just have to make sure we're all on the same page. The main goal, obviously, is to be able to have adequate housing on a farm for the people that need to work on the farm. Because housing is a big issue across all sectors of the economy, and on agriculture, it's very important. So, if you have anything to add, Janet?
I don't know. I think the only other thing that's kind of come up recently with some of the other municipalities that are reviewing some of their zoning bylaws is their definition of home industry and home occupation. And it's more in the southern part of the county because there are people that they're zoned agriculture, but they're essentially on secondary ag, and it's small parcels, and they're essentially a residential lot. There's not any farming activities that are taking place. And if they want to have a home occupation, like a hair salon or something like that, and that type of zoning in the residential area, and having to comply with parking and that type of thing, that's fairly straightforward. But the home industry is becoming a bit of a gray zone as to how that's being interpreted, because some of the home industry is taking place in an attached garage on homes, and there's a push to have a separate physical building for home industry, even in a residential area. If that's the case, then setbacks and noise. So I think being clear in our definitions of because when people think of home industry and they think of a farm, there's a bit of gray zone as to what industry is on a farm that is farm related versus industry that's happening more in a residential as a secondary kind of hobby type potential operation. So I'm hoping within this group that we can kind of also look at that. I think it'll come up in some of the definitions, just so that we're clear, because in some other municipalities, by being more stringent with home industry, there's unintended consequences happening in the agricultural area. So we want to make sure that we have industry in the right place, and we want to be able to foster industry in the right place so we don't create conflict between neighbors, but also provide the ability where it's appropriate for businesses to grow. So I think that would be my only addition, Brett.
Yeah, we are seeing some of that issue here too, where in the urban areas, for a home business, like you mentioned, a hairdresser or something like that, traditionally those take place inside the dwelling, and we are now seeing more demand for people to want to put them in an accessory building. So similar issues are happening even in the urban area, especially on the fringes where you've got bigger lots. People see, okay, I've got this big garage. Instead of my business being in the house, I want it to be in that shop or in the garage. So we're seeing a little more of that. The other topic I think that's coming up through our working group is the amount of tourism related businesses that are now happening in the agricultural zone with wedding venues and that sort of thing. So that's also something we need to look at a little more carefully.
Thanks, Brett. Janet, any questions for Brett, Janet, on the agriculture update? I keep like triple checking Neil to make sure I'm not skipping him. Kristel, did I see a hand?
I just want to make more of a comment, I think, just to add to Brett and Janet's point. At the business center, or our consultants, when we're doing our training and things like that, we're constantly asking them to check bylaws, to check zoning, to check and directing them that way, because, we sort of give them the 3 tiers, check, municipality, township wise, here's what you need to look at, provincial, federal. And so hopefully some of that, because we're seeing a lot of people and purposeful in looking at their business, not realizing that maybe they can't run their type of business in their home for various, reason, bylaw reasons and things like that. So I'm glad to hear there's a bit of an influx there, because we need people educated as far as if they're able to do what they want to do on their property or not, right? So yeah, that's good to hear, actually.
Any other, Neil?
Yeah, now not about this issue, but I realized that we missed something this morning, and maybe we could just back up with a little bit of housekeeping. We always make the assumption that everybody on this call knows everybody, but we have with us this morning the new CAO. Some of you may know Dan as his time as the Chief Financial Officer, but I wanted to make sure he at least got introduced to the group as our new CAO. You'll notice that Mr. Goldie is missing. He's off golfing and watching the Boston Bruins for the rest of his life. And Dan has taken the reins. So I wanted to make sure that we introduce Dan Wilson as the new CAO.
Thank you, Neil. And I apologize, Dan.
Oh, no problem, Sally.
I thought you wanted to hit the ground running. I'm sorry. I thought you just wanted to just slide in under the radar,
No, yeah, no problem. I think I know most people around the table anyway, but it's nice to meet everybody, and good to be part of this group. Thank you.
All right. If there's no other questions for Janet or Brett on that, we will move into the info items. I know, sorry, Brett, go ahead.
I just wanted to add, before we wrap up with the subcommittees, Don, Valerie, and I have had some conversations, and it's going to trigger an internal conversation at the township office about if there's a need for another subcommittee to be created to look at the downtown cores and things like that. So just so everyone's aware, there's a little bit of discussion going on about a new subcommittee as well. And maybe we'll be looking for some volunteers for those too. Thanks.
What type of downtown core focus?
Well, a couple of things have come up. Parking strategy has been on the radar for a while, and then just making sure that we go forward with keeping the recommendations that were in the Roger Brooks study going, if there's anything that we've overlooked. So those are the kind of things that we've talked about.
Thanks, Brett. Okay, I know Kelly isn't here. Neil, do you have a County of Wellington ECDEV update?
Actually, no. We chatted at length yesterday. They're mostly embroiled in the budget process right now. And once he gets through that, he'll have an update, but he had nothing to add for this morning.
Okay. Kristel, it's going to be your time to shine here. Kristel has a presentation for us on the value of partnership. And George and I've chatted, I think we might see a few other presentations coming up in these meetings, updates from various community partners. So Kristel, I'll let you take it away. Do you have permission to share your screen?
I do not, so I'm just going to ask my friend Devlin to help me with that, please.
Should be okay now.
Yeah. Sharing is caring, Devlin. All right. So I'm just going to make sure everybody can see this. Good morning, everybody. It's nice to have an opportunity just to speak to you today. I know that we do a lot of work in partnership, but I'm not sure everybody knows what Business Center does. And so I'd love to be able just to take a few minutes and just share that with you. And if I can get this to cooperate, we'll be really good. Can everybody see that on the screen? Yeah, okay, great. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about what we do. I promise I'll try to keep it as light as possible. But again, I think from a frame of reference of understanding how we fit into the economic development cycle would probably help for everybody to know. So for those of you, and welcome, Dan. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, but I'm the Executive Director of Business Center Guelph Wellington, and we serve both Guelph and Wellington, our communities. We've been around for 22 years. We're in our 23 year of operation, and we support entrepreneurship. So we do that by means of We'll talk a little bit about it, but we are sort of the entry point for anybody considering starting a business from the ideation stage. We are also an entry point for people who have already started a business. A lot of people, they don't know what they don't know. And so they might know their particular industry or what they want to do is create a business, but they haven't done the market research. They haven't done the homework. And our goal is to get them to a point that they understand that there's a sustainability and a viability to their business model. Because, and Tony Morris, who's on the call here as well, is one of my advisors. He serves as one of our advisors as the team, which we'll talk about in just a second. And I can tell you a lot of the work that they do, it's been inundated since COVID, I will say. We were fortunate that we had already implemented a online booking system on our website. Prior January 2020, we launched it. And so Kim, March 2020, we were able to easily and seamlessly move all of our operations virtually. So we do all of our consultations online. We do all of our programming online, and I can tell you the numbers have doubled and tripled as far as interest. From the standpoint of people potentially losing their jobs because of COVID and the economic downfall of COVID, people being misplaced or displaced. Some people have just said, you know what, I've been thinking about this for years, and now with COVID, I've decided it's time to do this. So our consultations have jumped through the roof, our numbers are high, and people continue to populate our programming, which I'll show and share with you in just a minute. So for the new businesses, we actually walk them through, is there a business? Is it viable? Is it something that's going to sustain? For the existing businesses, we help a lot with growth strategies, and that can be whether it's hiring, maybe they're looking at some lean manufacturing, needing some help with process, operations, things like that we can do. We do a lot of, I dare say, I don't love the word audit, but we sit with them and actually review their operational plans, their financial plans, their HR plans, and then we can add and give advice from here and there. We don't do it for them, but we advise as to what their best strategies are and get them to the point of recognizing what the right answer is for them, because it's about them, it's not about us. So that's a little bit there. Just as far as funding, people always ask, where's your funding? Can everybody see that screen? Or just Sally, can you say yes, just so I know?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, good. Sometimes it doesn't flip. So 80% of our funding actually comes from the provincial government, and it's the Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade is the current, we'll see what happens come election year this year. And what that means is that 80% represents your taxpayers' dollars. That's why we work very hard to get people to utilize our services, because it is their taxpayers' dollars coming back to them. 20% comes from sponsorships and partnerships through City of Guelph, County of Wellington, and of course our friends here at Center Wellington. So we're very grateful for that. That 20% is also acts right now. We have an office in Fergus. Unfortunately, we're not operational right now, open-wise, but we certainly, when normal times happen and when things get back to normal again, we hope soon, we will be repopulating that office just off of Provost Lane there, where we have a little office where Tony does consultations and things like that. So we are one of 47 small business centers across Ontario. So this is, they all range in size, they all range in capacity. We have 1-person operations to 20-person operations. And it's really, I will say, they're each individual and independent in the way they operate. So what I mean by that is we are one of only 3 that are actually not-for-profit and are standalone. We don't, we are not embedded in municipality. We're not embedded in the economic development departments. The majority of them are. We are not. So I'm kind of proud of that, because we truly are entrepreneurial in how we run our business. Believe me, it's been days when I was like, oh my God, what were you thinking? However, we've been able to navigate and manage and keep ourselves independent that way. Some of you will know that we just most recently moved into City Hall, in our Guelph City Hall location. That was a financial decision. It was a partnership decision, and respectfully, we still maintain our autonomy. So anybody wondering if we're part of City Hall now, we're part of economic development, we are not. We are still a business center, Guelph, Wellington. We're still independent. And it was, as I said, a financial decision to help our bottom line, if you will, with rent and operational things. So we work in partnership with economic development, and we have an office space on the 2nd floor. And then we work in partnership with the Service Guelph team, which is on the main floor. And they basically triage clients to direct them to us for the services. So we do a lot of work in trying to direct them now to the website, quite frankly, because we're not physically there. But that's sort of that partnership. We have a 3-year agreement to see how this works, because we're going to be at City of Guelph. I'm sure you've heard, has just been trying to get their new strat plan approved. They're in the approval process these days. So we will play a role in helping to get their boots on the ground for them to outline some of the initiatives they're looking for us to. So George and I have had many conversations. We've had many conversations about, some conversation about the business park. And so I would say to you that that is our role here as well. We are not limited to City of Guelph. It is Wellington County we serve. And we happily want to be part of these committees representing, love to sort of sign us up already, Brett, if we can, for the downtown core piece, because those are all fundamental to economic development and the work we do with small business in downtowns. So we've also most recently formed the small business centers. 47 of us have formed an actual association. So very much like the Ontario Chamber of Commerce that Sally's a part of. The aspects have come, we call them lovingly aspects, small business enterprise centers, have come together and formed our own association as of this year. And I'm proud to say that Business Center has a seat on the board there. So, and our purpose there is to start to level up our representation as well as boots on the ground with small businesses. A lot of people see during the crisis, we've seen a lot of work from the chambers. They've done an amazing job. The CFIBs of the world, which is the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, has been a lot of work in lobbying. And so we feel as 47 business centers who also represent business can also help to lobby. And, we want all the boats to float. So that's sort of, we feel that there's a stronger voice united with all of these great organizations doing this great work. So you'll see some more stuff coming from this small business network as well this year. And we sit on BIAs, we sit on boards of trade. We're very happy to have a role here on this Economic Development Committee. We're part of Grow Guelph, and we do a lot of work with smart cities as well. We are considered one of the main doors, if you will. So we promote the Smart Cities Initiative, the Food Futures Initiative. There's a bunch of stuff going on there in COIL and different programs they're running to farmers and small businesses working in trying to recycle and do all kinds of great work and upcycle. And there's a whole movement going on about that right now. So we do have a place on that seat as well. So we're busy. We got lots of places to be, and we love being part of it. Just so you know, since 1999, we've created over 8,500 jobs. I think that's closer, it's higher, but that was my most recent stat. We do provide access to advisors and mentors, and I'll talk a little bit about that. On a yearly basis, the Ministry of Economic Development gives me basically $103,000 in grant money to give out to companies. So it's not for us, it's the grant money. They have to do some work. Companies have to do good work and be part of our programs, but we do award on a yearly basis over $100,000 in grant money, just strictly from the provincial ministry. We also work with Digital Main Street, as I mentioned, and we've been running this program. We've been a partner for this program for the last 3 years and have seen over 1,000 businesses in both Guelph and Wellington County. And I will add that Wellington County surpasses, actually are pretty close. It's just a little bit over 50% of the businesses that have received these grants. So we work we're very limber, and we move all over the county, but we make sure that we are representing our county. And 10,000 businesses strong, over one-to-one consultations. And we also are a partner in the Rise Ventures program, which is a women entrepreneurship program that is led by Innovation Wealth. So just to show you, these are founding partners was the province of Ontario, City of Guelph, Wellington County, and Chamber of Commerce were original back in 1999. And our funding partners, as you can see, continue to be our friends at the Ontario government, City of Guelph, Wellington County, and again, Center Wellington. So we're very grateful for all the support that we get, both in monetary value and in kind support as well too. Every little bit helps. And then community partners, I always like to show that and this list is very small, but we work a lot with local other business advisory services, including our chambers. We've got you on there, Sally, and we do a lot of great work with you. Kim, the BIAs there, I didn't have your logo, but we work with all of our local BIAs as well, especially in Digital Main Street and our starter company programs. We work very hard to make sure that all the programming that we run in our center whether it be through the starter company or summer company program, that we see minimum of 50% representation from the county as well too. So, and we have those numbers to prove that. So it's exciting to see that, you know, there's always an equal balance of concern and regard. Just a little bit. Tony, you're front and center today. I love this, Tony. But this is our team. I'm very fortunate. I will say respectfully, when I came to the center almost 4 years ago, it was a little bit struggling a little bit, have been through a lot of major upheaval and change. And so we worked very hard for the first 2 years to balance the books, and get things well running as a well-oiled machine. And now I'm very proud to say that I have a wonderful team that I work with every day. Pleasure of myself, and I have Angie, who is my program coordinator, and then Tony, and I have 2 other advisors that work with me on a contract basis and deliver on all kinds of mentoring services for our clients. So we're a lean team, but we're a very efficient team, and we see a lot of growth happening in the next couple of years. So we're excited about that. And what do we do? Well, we actually do one-to-one consultations. So for anybody who's interested in considering starting a business, even if it's ideation stage, you know, I have a dream, you know, this is what I want to do. Or from companies that actually are in business and looking to grow. We do one-on-one consultations. These are free of charge. This is part of the money that has been provided through the ministry dollars. And so they get an hour with our consultants to talk about, here's what I'm thinking. And they will do a couple things. They will listen to them. They will direct them accordingly. You know, it's a great idea, but you need some more research. They'll send them away with homework. They will sometimes direct them to the next stop. I call them triage. They're great triage representatives, and they will move them to appropriate programming that we offer and workshops within our offerings to say, okay, you know what, you need to go to this next step. You need to take this workshop. You need to take this program. And so we move them along what we call the continuum of care. We have, and sometimes I'll be honest with you, we also advise them not to open a business. It's amazing. It's certainly not it's their journey, not ours, but it's amazing. And Tony, I'm sure, could attest to this. There's an amazing amount of people who come in with great ideation and great ideas, but do not have the financial support, or do not have the experience, or do not even, you know, I'm going to start a restaurant, but I'm going to hire all the managers and everybody to run the restaurant, which is really not a great way to start a business. So because you're handing out all your dollars before you even build capacity. So sometimes we have to have those difficult conversations. And I will say this year, correct that. I'd love to say it was just this year. This last 2 years was filled with those difficult conversations. A lot of adapt, pivot, and in some cases closing strategy conversations were had. And it's always to the benefit of the owner. So, you know, it's interesting. And sometimes, you know, we send people away, say, you know, it's not quite there, but what can you do? So for example, if I want to open a bakery and I don't have the dollars to open up a bakery, then what can I do? Maybe I scale it back, if you will, peel back the onion. And maybe I start with doing cake baking, and I can use a commercial kitchen to, you know, to make my cakes, and then I can sell them to local restaurants. And then I can build capacity for myself to finally, and maybe in 3 or 4 years time, actually open that bakery. So there's a lot of conversation that goes on. And again, I'm very proud of the experience and what my advisors do. They do great work every day. So I mentioned we have the training, we have the programming. I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. This is just sort of, we also do some work. You'll notice that the Ontario Works program, we do work with Ontario Works, which is our social assistance program in the county and in the city of Guelph. And there is an entrepreneurial program there that we do have some people who would choose to try to look at entrepreneurship as opposed to a career choice, and or as their career choice, I should say. And so we actually have been successful in moving people from social assistance into their own businesses, and the majority of them are still thriving today. So unfortunately, I can't identify them for privacy reasons, but I can tell you each of your communities have some of these representatives that have gone through the system and are off the system and in their own economic support, which is really a great story to have. Not a lot of volume there, but quantity and quality is basically the idea there. So as I mentioned, when we do the consultations, they are confidential. All my advisors are bound by confidentiality, and we do a lot of things. We talk to them about whatever they're looking for. You can see their human resources, marketing strategies, and we try to move them forward. in what our next steps. Our goal is to keep them on our continuum of care so that we see them through their business planning process, whether they're new or they're growing. And that's why we try to keep them engaged in workshops and programming, and the majority of it is free of charge. Again, their taxpayers' dollars coming back to them. So, and I just want to show you here. So just some of these are some of the things that we do. Every month we run a 2-hour sort of 30,000 level view, if you will, on all the things you need to think about. This was, this sort of really highlights, as I mentioned earlier in one of my comments, about us really pushing, the regulations and bylaws and things like that. We speak specifically about municipal township. Here's all the things you got to think about provincially, federally, things like that. And why we do this is we want to really give people a taste of what it's going to be. Small business is not 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. It's 24/7. And when you're not working in your business, you're working on your business. And I think sometimes people have a very glorified thought about, we see those entrepreneurs lying on their yachts and all that stuff. And that the truth of that is, on social media, is that less than 1% of entrepreneurs actually end up in that position. So for most of us, it's just job creation. We're creating a lifestyle, we're creating a job, we're creating a legacy, we're creating a family, something to support us in our years to come. So we get very real in these workshops in a nice way. And then if we see that we get them to work on a business model canvas, which is a 1-page business plan, if you will. And if we see that they're really engaged and they're interested, then we move them to a 6-week process where we really dive into the details. So, 1 week we spend 2 hours on marketing. 1 week we spend 2 hours on financials. 1 week we spend 2 hours on operations. So, and all along completing that business model canvas, and with the idea that when they complete the 6 weeks, they can effectively launch their business. And that's the purpose. For those who are in business already, we use the 6 weeks for them to sort of brush up and make sure that the boxes, their I's are dotted and their T's are crossed, and that they've made sure that because I'll find lots of times there are existing business that are not following through with bylaw or municipality rules and regulations. They don't have the proper permitting. I've seen it time and time again. So we use that for them. And we work what we call a customer journey map, and buyer personas. I mean, we get really targeted in helping these clients get really clear on what their business is, who their target market is, and how are they going to go out and get business done. So, and we work a lot in financial projections and making sure that it is a sustainable and viable business that they're going to be launching. So, and then we have for our growth programs, we have our Starter Company Plus, which you've heard me talk about, $70,000 a year in grant money I give out in this. And we use this Starter Company, respectfully, we've been using it as a recovery tool for the last 2 years. So we purposely choose, it is an application process, but we purposely choose businesses that are already in business and they needed that little extra help, that little extra push. Maybe they were adapting their strategy, maybe having to pivot some of their business strategy. And so we use that intentionally to give them an opportunity to work on it. It's project-based where they're focused in on for 4 months. And there's one-on-one time with the advisor, along with some training and things like that. And if they complete everything that they're supposed to do, then they have the ability to get up to $5,000 in grant money. And that is assessed at the end based on their participation. Did they show up? Did they do the work? Advisors basically recommend what level of grant monies these companies will receive. And again, we make sure that there's a minimum 50% representation in County of Wellington. And as I mentioned, Rise Ventures program, although it is funded through Innovation Guelph and federal government, we are one of the arms where we handle the small business streams. So we ensure as well that women-led businesses are being supported specifically with a 9-month program, and county representation is there too. I say that because it's important, because sometimes people associate the business center with just Guelph, and that's not the case. We actually spend a lot of time and energy in County of Wellington, and it does count for 50% of our time as far as advisor time as well too. So I want to make sure that it's recognized that we are here to help our friends in Central Wellington, along with our friends at the Chamber and our friends at the BIA. It's a collaborative effort. And then we talked about small digits. So there is, as I said, there are hints that Digital Main Street maybe will have a 4.0. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. There's hint. So we'll certainly look to help deliver on that if that's the case. But we're also doing our own kind of virtual programming, things like that. So we've got all kinds of digital programs, digital marketing, and certainly I would love it if you would have a look at some of our events online. I've just provided the link there for sure. I'm happy to send it out, or Devlin, maybe you can send it out. But why I say that is because there's such great program. We do a lot of work with CRA, small business taxation. Everybody needs to know that. So we actually have CRA representatives that host meetings to talk with small business owners on what do you need? What can you claim? What can't you claim? Things like that. We do a lot of work in the social media space, you know, HR, you name it. And this year, I will tell you, we've strategically decided to build more what we call vertical programming. So we're going to be very specific in going industry industry specific training. You know, so offering, for example, if you're looking at e-commerce site, we'll spend, 8 weeks helping you build your e-commerce site, get it out, get it launched, get it working, seeing results, things like that. So we're going to be targeted in that because we're recognizing there are certain industries that through our consultations, we keep track of what people are coming to talk to us, what industries, what businesses they're thinking of starting. And so using the top numbers there, we're going to provide more focused programming for each of those verticals. And that's us. So this is my telephone number. You are more than welcome to call me anytime. Please email. I know I'm on the email chain here. And again, if anybody, please, I'm asking if anybody is looking for business advice, small business advice, get them to go to our website, guelphbusiness.com. Very easy. There's a book now tab on the right-hand corner. They just complete the little, who are you? What would you like help with? And then our system is automated to then send the client the calendar of the business advisor that's has the best background experience level that would be of most help to them. So then they can book on this calendar the best date and time. We do evening appointments. We don't do weekends, but we're all day, and we do have evening appointments available. I will also mention that we do a lot of our training programs in the evening as well, because we have some clients that are still transitioning from full-time job, trying to build their side hustle, if you will, to a full-time status. So we try to accommodate as much as possible. So a lot of our programming is at night as well, just to make sure that we're there to help support the people that need us. So, and that's our social media. So, and I think that's it. So thank you for the opportunity. I hope that provides a little bit of context, just to see what we do and where we are. And as I said, we're strong on 2022. I know there's a lot of uncertainty, but we're here to help. We're here to support. And we're finding that people are just taking us up and having conversations with us, even if it's just support sometimes, just to say that, yes, we're here, we can help you. We walk them through some of their financials to see where we can maybe cut some corners, help them cut some corners for now as we sort of navigate the next, I don't know how much time. I'd love to say a month, but we don't know what that looks like. And respectfully, economic, even if we come out of this, I've said even if, when we come out of this, economic recovery is not 2 months, 3 months. We're talking years now, folks. So it will take business years to get back up to the level where they were operating pre-COVID. So that support is going to need to continue to happen throughout the next couple of years. Thank you. I appreciate your time. Happy to answer any questions or if anybody has anything they want to say.
Thanks, Kristel. That was amazing.
Hope that helps. Yeah, it's some good context. Like I said, please just ask us, reach out. Hi, George.
Hi, Kristel. Just a quick comment. Thank you again for the presentation. On the entry point comment on the ideation stage, as well as maybe an existing small business, do you have a rough idea of your percentage? Are you focusing a little bit more on the startup or someone who's already maybe 1 to 2 years and saying, oh, I'm running into a problem, help?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually, George. Traditionally, we were startup, I will say. It was probably closer to 70% of people coming in the door. We've purposefully moved from that to, I would bring it down to at least 50%, especially with our programming being very targeted. We have been working very hard on expanding businesses. You can imagine being around in the county and city for 22 years. We have a lot of businesses that have come through our doors. And respectfully, those businesses that are looking to sell their products globally, nationally, international, would go to somewhere like an Innovation Guelph, which is one of our partners in business advisory services. Their level, what they do is they're looking for companies that are looking to scale global, national, international, on their commercialization of their product and services. People often ask, what's the difference between you two? That's the difference. But we have companies that, respectfully, George, if they've been around for 10 years, they don't want to go global, national, international. Maybe they want to, franchise their chain out. Maybe they want to, add an extra part of their manufacturing plant. They're staying regional, but we didn't necessarily have the resources or the advisors to help with that. So we recognize that gap in the market and now have built in an expanding program as well too. So it's interesting. It's sort of gone from about 70 to 80% now to about 50% of the businesses are startup. The rest are expanding. Yeah.
Thank you. And I know I've referred a number of clients to you.
You're a great referrer. I appreciate that.
But
Love it.
Existing as well as startup, because they're just trying to navigate through the whole business process, whether it's a zoning issue or a building issue or a site issue, let alone a financial plan.
We've helped counsel people on building permits and how to fill that out and how to fill it. Tony's a great, he's been helping companies navigate the whole granting programs and all the last 2 years and walking people through. Here's how you fill this, for this grant or this, particular program or incentive. I mean, that we will help work with any business, and respectfully, we're great partners. We recognize what we do, and we are happy to refer to our friends at Central Wellington Chamber if it's the problem is more relevant or the solution is more relevant to them. I mean, that's what you do in partnership. And when you do that collectively, you have a better support system for your entire community. So again, it's not about competition, it's about collaboration. And we work very hard to be good partners. So put us in, coach. We're happy to help. Even if we can't answer, if we don't have we're not the right person, we'll make sure you get the right person. And that's the difference. Yeah. There's this isn't my job kind of stuff at our place, I can assure you. Right, Tony? Tony's a busy guy. Thank you.
Any other questions for Kristel? Awesome.
Yeah,
George,
my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
George suggested that next month I present, but now I have to follow that, Kristel. So maybe I'll delay.
Thanks, Sally. You're sweet. I'll send you your $25 later.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Starbucks gift cards accepted. Actually, the Vault just opened downtown. Vault gift cards accepted.
Downtown. That's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So next up, economic development update from George.
Thank you, Sally. Yeah, to frame everything before I start going through the report, I'm spending a lot of time on the strategy, the economic development strategy or the economic development action plan that was done by McSweeney and Associates. And it's been started from 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. Things have been put on hold. So just as a heads up, I am trying to sort through all those 6 objectives, and I would say probably close to 50 actions and to see where we are. And I'm also trying to work with our communications officer, Kendra Martin, because I want to see how to lay it out so I can present it in a very reasonable, clear manner. Because the current way it's projected or put out is a horizontal landscape, and it's very complicated to navigate myself, let alone to take it to an audience. So just as a heads up, I will be bringing something forward in the future. It's on my radar. But with that in mind, everything I try to report on is linked from that umbrella, if I can use that language, that strategy, that action plan. So I try to cascade down in my activities, and that's what this report's all about in future reports. The first item is the implementation plan of that strategy, and it refers to what we call becoming more investment ready. That's the first objective in the plan. And with that in mind, you clearly see that we're focusing on the business park, the availability of industrial land. That is important. We've been working with our engineering service, Triton, to begin to look at our inquiries in relation to the Dixon Drive extension that Brett referred to, maybe a future cul-de-sac coming down from that. What would be the proposed lots that would also match the inquiries? And to date, then I think that's where Neil was referring to. We've had 17 industrial land inquiries. That's near the end of the report on the Central Wellington North Fergus Business Park. And I have actually followed up with each individual inquiry to see if they're still active. They have also followed up with me because there's still a strong interest. Without obviously citing the individual names, which I can't, but 90% of them are coming from the center of Township Wellington, and the other 10% are either within the Wellington County jurisdiction or outside and from the GTA. So those inquiries are ranging from, looking from the 1 or 2 acre size, the scaling up, coming from lease space, wanting to open up and start their business with a freestanding building, versus those larger companies that may be looking for a little larger size. So with that in mind, that's how we're trying to design the lot, what would make sense to accommodate them. If I look at the total inventory in terms of acreage required in relation to what I think is going to be net developable, we're getting very close. But at the end of the day, it's going to be all subject to price per acre, which we can't determine until we know the Dixon Drive extension. So once I can get that final figure, then I'll see what my true indication is. So I might just pause there in case Neil has a question on the inquiries. I don't know. Okay. So that's what I'm trying to do, is link those two together. As Brett has already referred to, we've had on January 17th to the January 31st, will be posted on our website, the Public Information Center, talking about the Class EA Dixon Drive extension. There'll be, I think, a letter going out to a multiple group of stakeholders, councillors, a variety of different ministries at the provincial level, all the different First Nation communities for their comments. And then that'll help us move forward. In terms of the second point on the report, undertaken investment readiness, that's one of the objectives, again, under becoming more investment ready. We've retained McSweeney and Associates. They've prepared the statistical version of the community profile. The last community profile done for the township was in 2013. I think I want to update it, obviously, and hence why I'm moving in that direction. It's an important document that we can put in both a PDF format, put on our website, and eventually have hard copy when we can do face-to-face meetings. With that in mind, I will eventually table a draft version to this committee for comment and review to make sure I'm not missing any particular organization or particular service or feature. But right now I'm just working with, again, Kendra and myself, just looking at all the stats and making sure the statistical information is up and ready. I think I referred to the industrial land inventory last time. I've been working with our GIS specialists within the township. We designed a work template that we will eventually do a prototype before actually posting on the township website. It's pretty well done. We have an inventory of all the industrial land that we know, serviced and unserviced. We've been working through the business park subcommittee. Secondly, the area that I'm having a little challenge with is the verification of ownership. Some of the owners are numbered companies. When I do my homework and look around and see an address, let's say it's in Orangeville, who's the company? And I'm trying to get a phone number, at least a contact, to say, hey, can we just post your contact information generally? And if there is a referral, it'll go on the website. So that's where I'm sort of at my little sticking point right now. There's about 3 or 4 lands that I'm trying to find out who the owners are. We also have completed the marketing fact sheet. The only thing I haven't posted it on the website yet is that I'm still trying to determine what the final price per acre will be. And once we know that, then I can actually post it on the website. It's ready to go. I've also been working on a marketing and communications plan, something coming on board. What I said is, what's our game plan? Under the economic development strategy, it said to have a marketing strategy. So I thought it was important to put something down. I've drafted version 8 right now. I'm working on laying out the budget. What are our communications objectives, marketing objectives, targeted audiences, proposed methods of communication, both traditional and non-traditional? What are the initiatives, the associated budget? What is the flex? Because from the public dollars, I want to make sure where I'm allocating my marketing budget. Can I have flex from one year, move money this way, and another year do it this way? The Economic Recovery Task Force may come up with a new initiative. Maybe I should drop something and move into this. Should I continue doing something and one activity because we were always done it this way, but maybe we need to think a little differently and more creatively because the world around us, and we've heard the word pivot a lot, repivot, reframe. And this way I want to have at least a game plan on paper that I can table to the committee and say, what do you think? I'm trying to look at different ways. I'm also reviewing with my colleagues across different communities just to get ideas. Or were they doing something a little differently? Have they used a certain service provider and why have they used it? I think Bob Cameron pointed out something that just flagged me and just said, oh, because I've seen it, workforce attraction. Have I even looked at that in the marketing communications plan? We look at trying to market to our industrial office realtors. We're going to market the business park, create brand awareness of where Center Wellington is. Oh, have we even thought about a workforce attraction strategy? And what does that look like? And within the actual website, we have a service, Center and Live, Work, Play. And how has that updated? Do I have the jobs out there that are appropriate and how are we updating it? So I have a lot of work to do. But with that in mind, it's workforce attraction. And if you bring workforce, then you open up the other issue, which is housing availability and diversity of housing. So they're all intricately linked. So that's what I'm trying to do. Again, this will be a future document to be aware of that is coming. I think I have a layout now that I'm comfortable with. It's simple to read. I think it's simple to follow. It's about a 12-page document, but it's the best I can do in trying to capture everything, but in a simple format. Generally, in terms of marketing activities, I have done a little bit of exposure to SIR, doing a little banner ad with their SIR news. That's the Society of Industrial Office Realtors. That's a target audience. We've got to make them aware of the business park. And then I'm working on trying to establish dialogue with various local real estate agents and brokers, develop a working relationship, find out what sites they have available, start referring them to potential clients. And that's taking time. And last, just an update, you see clearly I've worked with Sally attending her events, working with the Wellington County Municipal Economic Development Group, learning about the whole issues related to the housing strategy. And yes, in my backyard training session. That is one activity. They've been working with 3M Letter Marketing, I think, to work on testimonials about what are the housing issues and break stereotypes. And then the last is the industrial land inquiries, which I constantly monitor, track, lay out. So these are just some of the activities and then future activities that are going to be coming forth to the committee once I get something down on paper that's readable and understandable. So, and then I can see, I think I participate with Brett with the site plan application meeting, which is very important. It really gives me insights. I didn't report it on here, but it really helps me see the whole picture of developmental activity in the township, residential and non-residential. I'm starting to recognize the names now, the streets, and that's helped me because now I can say, okay, I know where they're talking about. And I could see the issues that we are going to come across. And I was just thinking, Brett, as an aside, clearly, when we develop the business park and have offers to purchase and agreements of purchase and sales, there could be anywhere up to 25 or 30 site plans and building permits on top of the existing workload that you have in 2020 versus 2021 versus 2022 coming up. So I'll stop right now. So that's just a quick run through of the report and the activities that I'm involved with.
Thanks, George. Go ahead, Brett.
Thanks, Sally. Well, just, George mentioned the kind of activity volumes that he's seeing. And I just earlier this week got some preliminary numbers for building permit values, construction values from comparing 2020 to 2021. And it's encouraging that in the industrial, commercial, institutional, our value of permits issued in 2021 was close to $54 million. And in 2020, it was just a little over $34 million. And township-wide, like all types of permits, our construction values have grown from about 176 million in 2020 up to nearly 330 million in 2021. So we have a ton of development activity going on, and it's strong in every sector. So that, I mean, that's good news, but we are very, very busy in planning and development.
Bob?
Yeah, George, I'd like to make sure there's something that we sort of revisit if we can, or raise the priority again. And that's the CIP, the Community Improvement Plan. This group, well, certainly staff, Brett, and some of your predecessors, I think did an amazing job. And what we have is a tool that is very broad-based and comes up with a lot of situations where our community through the CIP can help potential businesses. And as much as, you know, economic development is happening, and as Brett said, we're keep handling more and more cases. And I'd like to potentially look at some specific sites. We were doing that before COVID hit, where we started to look at specific sites that are critical to the town. Maybe they're entrances to the town, maybe they're brownfield sites. But how do we use the CIP and in fact be proactive so the municipality can say, here's the ideal situation of what we'd like to see on that site. No matter what it is, if it's an ugly site, it's still a piece of land, it's went up in value. Maybe there's things that we can do to be proactive. I just wouldn't want to lose that in the new strategy update as you refine the workload.
Thanks, Bob. Neil, did you have a comment on that?
Yeah, I just want to talk about the labor force dynamics just for a minute or two, George, because if you're working on that, the live, work, play theory that we've always had is changed a bit with COVID, because a lot of people who used to work outside the community or people that lived outside the community have moved into this community during COVID. And so they're now part of our labor force. So we need to find a way to connect those people that may bring new talents that have moved here with new talents, but still work outside. And if we can attract the right business in, then we can, you know, they're living here, they can work here now. So we have to find a way to market that, the business park stuff to the local residents that have just moved in. And I don't know how we can, you know, inventory their expertise or their whatever it is that they do. But I think it's something we need to think about, is that we have a new labor force that's moved in that is now living here and working kind of remotely, and what kind of talents do they have and who can they help?
Sally, if I may, to answer Neil, I think from the strategy or the marketing plan and marketing communication plan, I'm looking at the two audiences. Don't forget your local audience versus your external. So I have to balance that. So I have to look at activities or tactics and initiatives, communication measures that we can focus on both. So I'm picking up a lot of little tidbits already. Labor force, you know, the role of pivoting, and clearly the CIP is another issue, but I think is a separate kind of element, but a very important element in terms of the priority sites. So yeah, there's a lot of activity there, and you have to figure out what's the best way to handle it.
Peter?
Yeah, I just wanted to add in one of the things we talked about a long time ago now. It seems like a while, but the idea that so many people now are working from home. So it's not only our people moving here and working, but the people that were already living here and maybe commuting to Guelph or maybe commuting into Waterloo or whatever are now working from home, and in a lot of cases. And what can we do there to for local retailers and for local businesses? Because people, when Neil was saying, you know, shop, work, and live it, or the three, I can't remember what they were, shop, work, and live, I think it was. But from that perspective, most people spend their money where they work and not where they live from a buying perspective. And it's interesting when we look at, you know, we were talking about the downtown, new downtown committee, whatever the case is, from all of those different things, people are spending money in different ways than they were 2 years ago too. And so from that perspective, we have to kind of think about how we can ensure that people know what's around in our own community, as opposed to them already understanding their community where they were working and all that sort of stuff. So, they need to know the activities that are going on. They need to know all the different things, the different, everything that Center Wellington offers. And so in flipping that, as so many people are moving in, all the new developments are happening, all this stuff, we need to inform those new people, but we also need to reach out to the people that have lived here forever, but really have been sort of part of that bedroom community of not doing much here other than coming here to sleep. So that's a bigger portion of the population than I think a lot of people are giving credit to these days.
Thanks, Peter. I mean, I know Kim gets comments all the time, right? We've lived in Fergus for however long. We didn't know you were here, different things like that. I did just jot down too, maybe the CIPs could be part of that downtown core group discussion, Brett, but also maybe part of the economic recovery discussions as well. Go ahead, Brett.
I just wanted to add further to Bob's comment that we did have budgeted last year for updating our CIP, and the county and the township have jointly retained consultants to update both the county and the township CIPs at the same time. So that project is just about to kick off. I think George and I have our kickoff meeting with the consultant and with the county staff next week. Unfortunately, because of COVID and office closures, we were meaning to have a face-to-face meeting, and it's not face-to-face anymore. So it may take a little longer to get things rolling, but definitely what we see happening is, for example, the facade improvement grants that were very active when we first passed the CIP in 2015 have really started to slow down, and there may be opportunities to tweak some of the grant programs so that maybe some of those specific sites that you talked about have maybe a stronger incentive to get those moving. Some of the priority sites that we identified still haven't moved. So what can we do in the CIP grants to make those move a little bit quicker? We're also intend to add housing, encourage mixed use in the CIP, which we don't do much of now, and looking at projects outside of the downtown cores that are not covered by our CIP currently. So, we have properties in the hamlets like Bellwood and Ennetville and Imberha that could use some upgrading too, and right now they're excluded within our CIP. So we want to make sure that we have programs that apply to those sites as well.
Thanks, Brett. Kristel?
I just want to add to Peter's comment because I 100% agree with them. And I think there's a whole economy there that we have to look at with assisting our small businesses now with their, maybe helping them bolster their presence through online and e-commerce and things like that as well. That was the sort of the premise of Digital Main Street. But a lot of those small businesses, in order to compete with the Amazons in the world, or as Peter's saying, people are shopping outside, if we can help some of those small businesses actually have an online presence, a better online presence, and help them bolster that as well too on an e-commerce piece, then that might also, assist them as well as being able to still remain competitive, because that's a reality, absolute reality.
Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been talking a lot about these in the last 6 months or so is being 5 mile famous. I mean, I know that's a mile, we could say 5 kilometer famous, but so being 5 kilometer famous. So most people these days are shopping either within 5 kilometers of their house or anywhere. So gone are the days where, and this is happening, we see this happening a lot, where people used to travel down the road, they'd head into Waterloo, or they head into Guelph, or they head into Toronto. That's not happening as much anymore, because they're saying, if I can't get it locally, then I'll just get it delivered, right? And so that the idea is that you need to be 5 mile famous or 5 kilometer famous, so that you truly are the known source for whatever it is that you supply in your business to your local community. Because outside of that sort of radius is less and less important anymore, because people just are going with the convenience, essentially, of having it delivered. So from that perspective, it's just a really interesting thing on how important it is to be the person of choice in your community. And from a retail side of things, from my side of things, from Shootopia, it's like, okay, so how can I be the authority in my area? And what am I doing to become the authority in my area? I don't really care about marketing to Guelph or Waterloo or any of these other places. I care about marketing in that sphere of influence around Center Wellington, or for our store in Mount Forest, because I need to be the source out, from that perspective, because outside of that, they're just going to go wherever they can find it and have it delivered to their house in most cases.
Great point. I'm writing down a list of things for the recovery group. George?
Yeah, just to build on the conversation, in the marketing communication plan, I did sort of flag this, a little element called success stories. People don't know what we have right here in our own community. So how do I build, through whether it's a blog or a little success story, build a human touch to the element. Talk about Utopia, how it started, what it's done. People may just assume it's there, but not know the history behind it and the people behind it. And then you keep doing that with all the small businesses. You can do a constant, keep people aware. You got to repeat that message over and over again. And a classic example is Coca-Cola. They probably have one of the highest brand recognitions internationally, and they repeat their message and how they've reformatted and reprogrammed and targeted different audiences and reduced their sugar content, for instance, in their product because of that concern for health. So they're reinventing themselves, repeating themselves. How do we do that with our local business? And we have so many different success stories here that we should be talking about.
Peter's commented a podcast too. And I think that, George, your repeating comment is valid. We hear a lot from people, well, I put an ad in the advertiser 3 years ago and I didn't see anything come of it, so I'm never putting it in again. Like it's reinventing. Tony, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's a reinforcement of what Peter was saying. I mean, pre-pandemic, the retail industry, people would shop and walk into a store with the hope that they would find what they were looking for. Today, the pandemic has changed that dramatically to, I expect to find what I'm looking for, or I'm going elsewhere. That's a real challenge. And Peter, you know as well as anybody, for the retail industry, but it's also an opportunity, because some of what the pandemic has done, and we hear the words pivot and adapt and everything, but we have to think differently. We talk about a workforce, we've got to attract a workforce. I would argue the workforce is here. It's the business that's changed. And the traditional business is not what the workforce is looking for. And so you have within the township a huge number, like I won't say huge, but a large number of young people that are incredibly entrepreneurial, that are thinking totally different than what our traditional thoughts are or what business should be. And so they're leaving their jobs. They're starting in the basement of their parents' home. And you'd be amazed. And we see some of it, and I will say a very small proportion of it at the business center. I would argue a lot of people don't see any of it, but there's millions and millions of dollars of business being done in people's basements in Center Wellington. And the traditional way of thinking that we have of business is going to be forced to change. I mean, a recent survey suggested 70% of shoppers want contactless experiences, yet the majority of retail don't provide it. Now, I'm not saying that's everybody in Center Wellington, but it gets back to what Peter and Kristel was saying. There needs to be help to create a much wider market for those that want to shop outside of it, but a much greater recognition, as Peter and George said, of what we have in the township, because we see it. It's the shift. We hear about this great resignation. It's a great resignation, but it's not a reduction of the workforce. The workforce itself is shifting. It's business that's not changing. We continue to think we need people to service those businesses. That, quite frankly, a lot of it, and the industry that I've been involved in for a long time, agriculture is a prime example. Robotics are taking over a lot of traditional work. We just don't need that workforce anymore that we once used to, because it's robots that are going to do it. But that opens up a huge amount of opportunity for people that now need to service those robotics. And we're short of those people. So things are changing. And I echo exactly what Peter is saying, that there's a need to kind of make people aware. Because I love that saying, by the way, Peter. It's very similar. Like we call it, we talk about value propositions, and I have a saying that says, "What is it that you do better than anybody else that adds value to the lives of people that makes you unique?" And that's that, be king on your own 5 kilometer, king or queen in your own 5 kilometers. So yeah, I think it's I think we can look at this as a real opportunity, but we've got to think. It's going to challenge our traditional thinking.
Any other questions, comments following George's update? George, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to build on Tony's comment, if I may. And I agree with you, Tony, fully. I know we can say it's a great place to live, work, and play. Everyone says that, every community. It's the emotional selling proposition. How do we move towards the unique selling proposition? What is unique about our area? And what are the attributes within the 5K framework, which I love? And how do we build on that and tell the story? So
lots to think about. Any other questions, comments following on this discussion? We just got a couple more things here before we wrap up. We'll jump to the Healthy Growth Advisory Committee update. Not sure who's giving that one.
I can do that. We did not have a meeting in January, but and I don't think we had one in December either. But as everybody knows around the table, the Healthy Growth Advisory Committee has been focused on the housing challenge and getting new rental housing and attainable housing built. So we have a couple of subcommittees at Healthy Growth, and we've set up regular meetings for those. None have happened in 2022 yet, but those are coming up in the next couple of weeks. One subcommittee is looking at changes that we can make to our zoning bylaw regulations to make it easier to build housing. And the second one is looking at the financial side and what kind of financial incentives there are. One thing that's happening right now is the provincial government, housing affordability is a hot issue, obviously. So the province has appointed a housing affordability task force, and they're looking for ideas, and that committee at the provincial level is looking for submissions until I think the 13th. So maybe today is the last day for people to submit, but so we hope to see some positive changes out of the provincial government that make it easier to build housing.
Thanks, Brett. Any questions for Brett? Okay. We didn't have a new business section, but I do have some new business because I was just going to share, if that's okay, Devlin, just a few highlights. We had a business town hall call earlier this week, which I know some of you were on, where we had 40 businesses join a Zoom call. We planned it pretty last minute. where MP Michael Chong attended and MPP Ted Arnott. And thank you, Neil, for attending with your deputy mayor hat on there. But I just wanted to share some of the stats, and I think this is going to drive some of the conversation at the economic recovery meetings. But we asked them to rate out of 5, how stressed do you feel your workforce is currently? We scored a 4.4. So very stressed. We did like a word cloud of how do you feel right now? And there were no positive feelings. 70% of businesses on the call have seen a decrease in revenue. 45% have seen a decrease by more than 75%. 80% of businesses on the call felt that financial support somewhat or totally missed them. Only 40% feel confident that they know what to do if a positive case is within the workforce. 80% of their workforces are currently impacted by COVID, whether that's work from home, people off sick, etc. And I just wanted to highlight a few of those things. There's a few others here. 90% of people who are planning or expecting to receive their latest $10,000 grant say that doesn't cover the 1 month expenses of the lockdown. So again, a lot of this is going to go to that subcommittee, the working group, but just you guys always ask me how the businesses are doing, and this was a little bit of a summary, a state of affairs. Currently, following last week's announcements and the unknown, at this time, we asked at the end, what would reduce your stress right now? And there were some funny answers, like the children on Dennis's screen are reducing my stress right now. But it was also just certainty, like an answer, a timeline, a plan that we can all follow, were some of those pieces. So not all problems we can solve, which doesn't make our jobs easy, but I did just want to share that. Any questions on anything like that? We will plan on doing some similar events. Neil, you were on the call. I don't know if you have any comments as to what you heard and saw on that call.
No, I heard a lot of apprehension, just they're tired of the uncertainty, and there's not a lot that we can do from that standpoint. I think the number one thing I heard was that loans aren't going to cut it because that just builds expenses and gives them another bill to pay. They're looking for help in a meaningful way that is either grants or expense relief, but they're not looking to take on any more debt to spread this out over years. So we've got some discussion to do there. But I think it was a good idea, Sally. I appreciate you putting it together. And I was happy that Michael and Ted were there. Yeah. Because, in all honesty, they're the guys with the bigger wallets. And we have to push it up and get ideas to them so they can get the ideas to the Premier and the Prime Minister and see if we get meaningful help for small business.
And something we did discuss was the CEBA loan and the repayment schedule, which it was announced yesterday that has been changed. I'm not sure it was because of our town hall the day before, but we'll take full credit for that. But they have announced some changes to that repayment schedule, extending it a year, which it's good news. It's not great news because another round of it would be fantastic, but it is some good news. George, did I see a hand there?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you could forward that email that you sent out to myself to Devlin, and maybe Devlin can make sure that all the task force members see the comments, the survey results, as well as the general thing, because there was a lot of good pertinent information that came out.
Yeah, lots of public health information was covered as well, which I didn't highlight, but they were in attendance as well, providing some clarity on some of the changes that have come about recently. Any other questions, comments, or new business? George?
Can we put a motion before the committee to recruit a new member to substitute for Dennis in his absence sometimes?
Which child would you like?
We'll take both.
Dennis, introduce your newest member of your family for the sake of we have 5 minutes and we all need a little stress relief.
Of course. Okay, so short time viewer, first time speaker. Hey guys, this is Andy Bell. She's just coming up on 3 months and she's been nothing but great. And that was Kit that was cruising, and I've got the audio through my headphone, but somehow that entertained them for 5 minutes. So that's Good job with your face alone, Sally.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
All right. Then if there's nothing further, then the next meeting is February 3rd. So we're back to our regular monthly schedule, and we'll have hopefully some of these subcommittees can meet in between there, and lots of updates for that. Then I think we're ready to adjourn if there's nothing else. 5 minutes early, 4 minutes early. If someone wants to note that for Dawn, that would be great. All right. So we'll call that adjourned at 9:56.
All right. Thanks, Sally. Happy New Year, everybody.
Sharing
Thank you,
feedback, I'm
everyone.
happy to accept,